Okay, earlier I spoke to Tara Kangarlou, who's a journalist and author of the investigative work Heartbeat of Iran. Let's have a listen into our conversation.
The entire region is ablaze. GCC is up in flames. Iran seems to be doubling down in its retaliatory attacks, as is Israel. I'm just getting words that thousands of Israeli reserves have been called up. And from what we see, the conflict is as messy as it could get, with pretty much the entire region involved. And 100%, I'm also getting lines that in the interviews that you mentioned, Donald Trump has said that he's willing to talk with the Iranians. And I think we're at a wait and see game. Who he talks to, we have to wait and see. Is it going to be the foreign minister? Is it going to be the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, who finally emerged midday after speculation that he might have been injured? Or would it be Ali Larijani, a key figure that I think we should watch closely? He was a confidant of the supreme leader. He's a son of a prominent cleric, and his wife also is the daughter of one of the founding members of the Islamic regime. So someone of strong influence within the IRGC. He has also been involved in the nuclear talks in Iran over the past few years. So could it be him? We have to wait and see. And also from sources in Iran, I've been hearing that possibly one of the reasons the regime, the IRGC, has been hitting the Gulf countries so aggressively is so that it pressures the Gulf nations to put pressure on the United States to bring them to the negotiating table. So a lot is at stake, but we really have to wait and see. The last thing I would say is for the Iranian people, though, and I know we'll talk about that, many are looking at this moment as an opportunity to move beyond the regime. So if Donald Trump wants to now negotiate with the Islamic regime, that possibility seems to be a grim opportunity.
That's an important word that you just used there, negotiate, because discussions were ongoing. And according to the Omani mediator, Iran was willing to make concessions in terms of reducing uranium enrichment, moving towards what the US wanted. And I mean, that is the essence of negotiation, moving your standpoint. I mean, I would make the argument that what the United States is wanting, or what Donald Trump is wanting, is not really negotiation, but more an ultimatum, because it seemed like the offer was, do it the way I want it, and we saw what happened if they didn't, a military attack. So is it really a negotiation, or is it an ultimatum?
Indeed, definitely we can argue that, because some were saying that the president's buildup in the region is a form of threat, that look at what I'm bringing to your neighborhood and pay attention to what I can do if you don't agree to my terms. What really stood out to me just less than 24 hours before the Israeli strikes was the Omani foreign minister's interview on an American news channel on Sunday, where he said, we have made a breakthrough. And we have to pay attention to these details closely, because he's not someone who gives interviews often. And I believe he wanted to set the record straight, that as a mediator, we've done all we can. And if Israel attacks, it's not our responsibility. I also think, again, that can be part of Trump's calculus, that now the regime is at its weakest. Possibly it's a survival game for them, and potentially they would capitulate and do pretty much anything that we ask of them. More than 48 members of the IRGC and the Iranian government have been killed. And this number is going to rise because we're continuing to see strikes across Tehran. So again, anything is possible, but most certainly the United States and its demands have to be met, because otherwise they will continue striking until pretty much they get what they want, whether it's a regime change, whether it's bringing Iran to the table.
Also, when Donald Trump says he's going to talk to Iran's leaders, presumably that is not going to be in person, because the delegations from the two countries didn't even, or they wouldn't bring themselves to sit down in the same room and speak face to face. They had to go for indirect talks through the Omani mediator, and finding somewhere that would be secure, given that several dozen Iranian leaders have been assassinated in the last 48 hours. I mean, it's hard to imagine anywhere that would be considered safe for an Iran leader to meet.
I mean, if there's a stop to the hostilities, of course, there are various places that these meetings can take place. This week, in fact, tomorrow, Monday, technical talks were going to start in Vienna. Is that going to be a location of a potential meeting? Is this going to be a meeting or conversation between the United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi? We really have to wait and see. But Donald Trump, one thing we know about him is that he likes to project a win. He wants to claim victory, and he's someone who's not afraid of putting on a good show. I really was thinking, actually, last night as we were getting news of the Supreme Leader's killing, that we might see a moment like what we saw back in 2011 when President Obama, if you remember, claimed victory in such a grand way, announcing the killing of Osama bin Laden in May 2011. And quite frankly, I thought Donald Trump might do something like that and claim victory for the killing of the Supreme Leader. And we have yet to see that big win, that victory lap from Donald Trump that he's known for. And I think we should wait and see. And once that happens, I think that's when we're going to see, okay, the day after, what's in store for Iran. And I will say, speaking to people inside the country, it's perhaps one of the most precarious times in Iran's modern history. And as I said, many are looking at this as an opportunity to move beyond the regime and the Islamic establishment.
Yeah, I'm particularly fascinated about that. The conversations you've had with people on the ground. You've written a book about, life in Iran, heartbeat of Iran. We know that there are those people in Iran who want to change the way that the country is conducted and the direction it's going in. But having seen what the United States did in Venezuela, the way that it removed the leader, Nicolas Maduro, and then has siphoned off the natural resources, it's effectively stealing illegally oil from the country. Is there any wariness of the price that might come with a US-led change of leadership?
That's an excellent question. And I think Iranian people are some of the most sophisticated in their thinking when it comes to understanding regional politics. And they're very well aware that the United States and Israel are not doing what they're doing because they care about the Iranian people, but more so are preserving their interests. And that is really the word and sentiment among ordinary Iranians when you talk to them, as I have been. However, we have to also understand that the regime in Iran has pushed the public to such extremes, that they are looking outward for the opportunity to have that 1% of a chance to live a better life. During the protests that we saw earlier in January that were brutally repressed, I managed to talk to people who were on the streets, saw people killed in front of their eyes. And one of them told me, a woman in Rasht in northern Iran, she said, "We just want a normal life, and we've been robbed from that. And if we get a chance to live even an inch better than what we have been living, to move away from this darkness, we'll take that." So Iranians are very well aware that foreign countries have their own interests at heart, but at the same time, they are caught within a regime that has done pretty much everything that will be detrimental to their well-being and growth and the potential that they have, and they want to move beyond that at any cost.
Information that's just come in. President Trump has posted, I believe this is on his Truth Social site, that 9 of Iran's Navy ships have been destroyed and sunk. Now, I wonder if this is an effort by the United States to kind of cut the Achilles tendon of Iran's ability to block the Strait of Hormuz by targeting its navy. I've heard it suggested that that would be the last option that Iran would go for. It would be the ultimate option, because that would have rippling effects financially all around the world. Do you think that that is a button they would be willing to press, blocking the Strait of Hormuz?
Indeed, their naval headquarters have been destroyed. This is what Donald Trump is saying. And also, we have to remember that Iran doesn't have an air force, right? So what's really left? Drones and missiles. And I think this is, again, a final stretch in Donald Trump projecting a win and wanting to either have Iran back off its military retaliation, or, as we were talking about earlier, come to the table. But of course, the Strait of Hormuz is perhaps one of the most strategic routes in the region. It connects the world. Much of the world's oil and gas goes through there. And I think Monday, tomorrow, we have to look at the numbers and how all of the events of the past 48 hours has had an impact on the markets, which, if not good, we can easily assume so, the American public will also not be happy about that. And mind you, on that point, that Americans, those who voted for Donald Trump, did so not wanting to engage in other conflicts and wars around the world. So Donald Trump's base at home is wary, and most certainly the Trump administration cannot afford a prolonged conflict, whether that's with Iran in the Middle East or elsewhere around the world.